Hello, this is Jay Mitchell, and we are back with another episode of the Libertarian Uncensored podcast, going over all the posts on the Libertarian Uncensored subreddit. Let's get right into it. So first we have Oklahoma School Chief Ryan Walters directed all public school teachers in his state to play this video to students where he says a prayer for Trump, and it was posted by Donald Key, and it's a cross post from the Religious Fruitcake subreddit. And yeah, I personally don't think teachers should be mandated to play anything that they don't want to. I think the idea of an enforced curriculum is very anti-libertarian. I think if teachers want to play it, that they should be able to. You know, some people might say, oh, that goes against separation of church and state, but I would argue that the problem is that we have state-run schools in the first place, and that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have SpaceX and Amazon lawsuits seek to shake up Federal Labor Agency from NPR by Ragnar OKXG, and yeah, I think that sounds interesting. I don't think the government should be forcing private companies to do things that they don't want to do. So if the lawsuits do want to shake up the companies, I think they should be able to sue for that. But I don't think the government should be enforcing private companies to do something that they don't want to do. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have, don't you love it when the free market functions as intended? Time to leave your toxic ex from CH4Locks, and that's cross post from the White People Twitter subreddit. Catturd got blocked by 20,000 accounts on Blue Sky and had his account suspended all off in a single day. And that's a tweet from Alt Space Force. Catturd has been a bad 15 minutes of fan on Blue Sky today. And yeah, that's personally why I don't really care for Blue Sky. It seems to be like old Twitter. They'll ban anyone for dissenting at all, Some people might say, oh, that's what Musk does with new Twitter, or X as he calls it now. But, I definitely do think it's more free, it's definitely more free speech oriented, The problem is, the Democrats just lost an election because they all were in their echo chambers and didn't want to interact with anyone who dissents at all. And what are they doing now that now that they've lost? They're doubling down. Let's say, oh, we need a new echo chamber full of insufferable leftists. It's like they already have Reddit. Isn't that enough? And that's my thoughts on that issue. So yeah, I'm definitely not a big fan of Blue Sky. I think if people want to go to Blue Sky, I think they should be able to. But it seems to be just like another social media echo chamber that I think we already have enough of those, even just with like Twitter, Reddit, Facebook, and all that. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Biden approves Ukraine's use of long-range U.S. weapons inside Russia, reversing policy from Lemon Limelight. And they said, the Washington Post reports, Biden approves Ukraine's use of long-range U.S. weapons inside Russia, reversing policy. Emphasis added. And then they shared some quotes from the article, some paragraphs from the article. President Joe Biden has authorized Ukraine to use a powerful American long-range weapon for limited strikes inside Russia in response to North Korea's deployment of troops. Thousands of troops stayed Moscow's war effort, according to two senior U.S. officials. The easing of restrictions are on allowing Kiev to use the Army Tactical Missile System, or CMS, to hit targets inside Russia. Is a significant reversal of U.S. policy and comes as some 10,000 elite North Korean troops have been sent to Kursk, a region of Russia alongside Ukraine's northern border, to help Moscow's forces retake territory gained by Ukraine. One U.S. official said the move is part aimed at deterring Pyongyang from sending more troops. Until recently, the Biden administration was steadfastly opposed to Ukraine firing ATA CMS into Russian territory, warning that the measure could lead to escalation by the Kremlin that was out of proportion to its battlefield benefits. But Putin has been explicit that he considers the use of ATA CMS as a red line. In September, he declared the strike by the Muslims in Russian territory, which would probably involve U.S. targeting assistance, changes the very essence and nature of the conflict, warning that his country would retaliate. And then they added, with involving U.S. targeting assistance and missile strikes inside Russia impact your opinion on Biden's policy reversal here. And my thoughts are we shouldn't be escalating tensions any more than they currently have, and I think this is a bad decision. I think Biden, maybe he's pushing, World War III is kind of a cliche these days, but, he seems to be pushing for World War III here, and yeah, maybe it's just despite Trump, since he's coming into office, or maybe it's just he's realized they have nothing left to lose. And yeah, so I personally am against this, but ultimately, if the U.S. wants to justify it, ultimately, the government currently is going to do that. Hopefully, when Trump comes in, he's going to stop it and get peace as soon as possible. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have humiliated Pentagon fails 7th audit in a row from responsiblestatekcraft.org by CD and history student. And yeah, I definitely don't think that's good. If a private company did that, it'd probably be out of business. But since the government does it, the government can't go out of business, so it doesn't really matter. And that just goes to show you how, if people don't want to treat the government seriously, I think they should be able to, because if they repeatedly fail audits, if anyone else repeatedly failed audits, they'd be, completely ostracized. But the government doesn't, and it's just business as usual. It's pirates and emperors. The government can do whatever it wants, but if an individual were to do the same thing, then it would be the worst thing ever. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Don't Threaten Me If a Good Time from Flimsy Al 5563, and that's a cross post from the Self-Aware Wolf subreddit, and that's a post saying MTG threatening to expose other GOP secrets, but as long as they are okay with Gates, then she's okay with the dirty laundry too. And that's a tweet from Marjorie Taylor Greene. For my Republican colleagues in the House and Senate, if we were going to release ethics reports and rip apart our own that Trump has appointed, then put all out there for the American public to see. Yes, all the ethics reports and claims, including the one I filed, all your sexual harassment assault claims that were secretly settled, paying off victims with taxpayer money, the entire Jeffrey Epstein file, states recordings, witness interviews, but not just those. There's more. Epstein isn't the only asset. If we're going to dance, let's all dance in the sunlight. And I'd agree with that. I do think, everyone probably has some skeletons in their closet, and you definitely probably would see that if you released all the files. And yeah, it just goes to show you how why government is kind of wrong in the first place, because they say, oh, you can't be compromised, but I think everyone, especially in the age of the internet, is going to be compromised to some extent, and I think that's a very important thing to note. And yeah, that's my thoughts there. Then we have Trump confirms plan to declare national emergency, use military for mass deportations from ABC News by CDN history student, and they shared a paragraph from the article. There are an estimated 11 million unauthorized migrants living in the U.S. without legal immigration status. Removing them could cost billions of dollars per year, according to estimates from the American Immigration Council. Plus, mass deportations could have a broader economic impact by resulting in a loss of tax revenue and labor shortages. And yeah, I personally don't really care for mass deportations. Maybe if people have committed violent crimes, I'd be fine with people deporting them. But I don't. If people are just peaceably keeping to themselves, I think that they shouldn't be deported. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Trump picks Dr. Oz for top Medicare Medicaid role from Axios.com by Dr. Who 07. And yeah, I personally don't think this isn't one of Trump's better choices. He seems to be either going with, there's three types of people he seems to be choosing right now: old Republican establishment neocon war hawks, which I personally don't like Marco Rubio. Then there's the outsider picks like Tulsi or RFK Jr., which probably are my favorite of the three. And then finally there's this type like Dr. Oz or Pete Hegseth, which he sees on TV and says, I might as well put him in the government. So yeah, I personally don't really care for Dr. Oz. I think it's interesting how the Democrats don't really like this, but they say, oh, we need to respect Muslims, but Dr. Oz joins the wrong party, and suddenly it's the worst thing ever when he's appointed to government. So that's got kind of hypocrisy on their part as well. So yeah, I personally don't really care for this, but if Trump wants to appoint whoever he appoints, I think that's fine. I personally think, the people we see aren't really the ones running the government. Those are really more the people behind the scenes. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Also, I think they'll end up being control opposition at best. And, Trump might shift around this cabinet a lot in his first term. So I definitely could see him doing that again. And that's my thoughts there. Then we have Trump taps Linda McMahon for Education Secretary from Politico.com by Dr. Who 07. And, yeah, I personally think that's an okay pick, I guess. I don't really care for her or husband Vince, the WWE guy, but yeah, if he wants to put her as Secretary of Education, she should be able to. I personally think he should just be getting rid of the Department of Education altogether, but I don't think that's too realistic. Even if he might try and hype it up that he's going to do that, he's not. I don't think he's going to go through with it personally. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have r/conservative has a connection over after Donald Trump's picked Dr. Oz to lead Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services from Donald Key, and that's crosspost from the Project 2025 Award subreddit. And yeah, I personally think this is just kind of saying, oh, look, they all regret choosing Donald Trump. But, Donald Trump, he said, I'm going to try to shake things up. And Dr. Oz definitely is kind of a pick that seems that would be trying to shake things up. So, ultimately, I don't think there's any real backlash to this. People who voted for him probably knew Donald Trump was going to choose someone like Dr. Oz before they voted for him. So I don't think people are really regretting it too much if they did go for Donald Trump. I personally didn't vote for him because I think he's just kind of controlled opposition. The country will still be ruled by the deep state, even if Donald Trump might market himself as otherwise. And that's my thoughts there. But yeah, I don't think people who vote for Donald Trump really care if he's choosing Dr. Oz for a government position. Then we have A Cultural Assault on Reality from The Atlantic by Patan Furtan. And yeah, I personally think what we really are seeing isn't that. I think what we're really seeing is an assault on the manufactured version of the reality presented to us by sources like The Atlantic and the New York Times, Washington Post, and all the other DNC propaganda rags. I think if they used to be the only way to get the news, but now since there's other ways to get the news, they increasingly have lost their monopoly on the narrative, and now all they can do is cry about it, like with this piece here, and that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have almost all student loans now cost the government money, according to CFRB from Lemon Limelight. From the Committee Responsible for Federal Budget, the federal cost of student loan programs has exploded over the last decade, transforming the program from a moneymaker under typical scoring rules to a significant money loser based on current estimates. New data released by CBO this year reveals that while loans and all repayment plans appear to be estimated as more expensive than previously thought, the primary driver of costs from IDR, income-driven repayment, while income loans as a fixed-term plans still generate net savings is far outweighed by the cost of loans enrolled in IDR plans. This primarily explains the swing from a student loan program that was expected to earn money into one that is now expected to lose hundreds of billions of dollars of student loans over a 10-year period. The steady changes of the generosity of the IDR program over time, combined with the growing realization of substantial enrollment of borrowers with persistently low incomes into those repayment programs, has led student cost loans to spiral. Here's the visual showing about all loans now as let losers. Also, student loans are now projected to cost the government $20 billion annually, whereas 10 years ago they were projected to make $15 billion annually. And yeah, I think that's just very much a symptom of how college degrees are pretty much worthless these days, and so people aren't getting them into to go into high paying jobs, because pretty much everyone has one. So that's why I think we got to gut the government student loan program and just let private enterprise do it instead, or maybe just advise people to go to trade school instead of college, because I think trade school is probably much better for people than going to college, because you actually learn skills rather than just have left-wing narratives thrown at you that you can get for free on places like Twitter or Reddit. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Portland's ranked choice voting was a success, despite or the Oregonian claims from PortlandMercury.com by Patan Furtan. And yeah, I personally am for ranked choice voting, but that being said, I don't think it's that realistic because it threatens the status quo, and in politics, the status quo is kind of God. And that's my thought on that issue. Then we have, now I can see why those Midas Caucus students thought Trump was the best choice from RollingStone.com by Van Corgan. And that's an article from Rolling Stone. Trump says Republicans must kill bipartisan bill to protect press freedom. And yeah, I personally don't think we need another bill to protect press freedom. I think it already has enough protection as is from the First Amendment. But regardless of that being said, the press is already going to be biased against Donald Trump, and they increasingly want to make all criticism of them illegal. And yeah, so I personally don't really care for any more. I don't think they need any more protections than they already have. And that's my thoughts on that issue. And we have anyone can buy data tracking U.S. soldiers and spies to nuclear vaults and brothels in Germany from Wired.com by Ninja Lover. And I personally don't think we should have data tracking people without their consent. But I guess if people want to just start doing that and sell that data, I guess they should be able to do so. Libertarians believe in a free market, and that includes data, and that would include data. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have ICC issues arrest warrants for Netanyahu, Gallant, and Hamas commander from BBC.com by Sean Pankey Dan. And yeah, I personally think that doesn't matter too much because the ICC is all bark and no bite. And yeah, I personally don't think we should have international courts in the first place that are above, the U.S. that are above the national government. I don't really care for the national government and national courts or state courts or local courts for that matter. But I definitely do think having extrajudicial courts, international globalist courts, is very anti-libertarian, and that's my thoughts on that issue. And then finally, we have Trump wants to ease rules for self-driving cars from Sean Pankey Dan from Reason.com. And yeah, that might be because of Musk, but regardless, I definitely do think we should be easing regulations for self-driving cars because I definitely do think we need that will help them hopefully get to market faster and hopefully be implemented as soon as possible. And that's my thoughts there. So with that, we're gonna wrap up there. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.